Have you seen anything at a protest that you were shocked to see that was not depicted on the news? It can be good, it can be bad, it can be just something interesting. It could be like a sign, it could be anything.
Well, I definitely feel like the more powerful signs they definitely don't put on our news channel. They're definitely not gonna put on the new one's Fox 5. So I want to say the best protest sign I've ever seen was "You cannot open your mouth for Black dick, but not for Black problems." That by far, I cackled. I had to tap her on the shoulder and give her a good wow, I love you, because that was it's comical, and we deserve comical relief. Black people deserve joy and comical relief in a time like this. So personally, that's the sign that I liked. Of course, for people who have always cared about Blackness, and I'm not saying a lot of people out there, I'm not saying a lot of people who are enraged now have never cared about Black issues, but I've noticed amongst my friends that have been going to protests for years, that have been organizing, that have been cared, they're not really depressed. They are depressed in this time, but they're not taking it as hard as people who felt like this wasn't their problem. A lot of Black people they don't indulge themselves in pro-Black or Black activities because, it's always, it doesn't hit home close enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, who was the question? I'm rambling at this point, but
no, my question was
something I've
just like, have you
seen.
seen anything that was obscure at a protest? That's all.
So I definitely think what a lot of people, something I've seen that I feel like it's not that I haven't seen on the news, it's not being translated properly, is that there is a lot of people with real emotions out there. Like I've seen, for some people, it's either hits extremely close to home, or this isn't anything new for them, so they're emotional because my brother was a victim, or I've been a victim of police brutality, and then you have people out there where it's like, I cannot believe that this has been happening, and I've been living underneath a rock. There are some people, and I'm not saying that from a judgmental point of view, because the point of the matter is that everyone learns. It doesn't matter when you learn, but it's just a matter that eventually one day that you come around and you learn. I don't want to, bash anyone for not have caring when Trayvon Martin died and them not taking that personally. But there's a lot of people, I've seen people crying just out there at the protest. There was a woman, and she was white, and she had a biracial little girl, and she had brought out so much, the donating supplies. Like if you've ever been out there, recently was really beautiful. There's been a lot of organizing and a lot of donations. I'm talking about like trucks filled with water and milk and paper towels and other things that protesters might need. There's sisters walking around with huge things of hand sanitizer. It's community, and I feel like that's not what the news is really portraying. There's a lack. When they showed on the news, they showed people marching, they might show a couple people chanting or whatever, but they never ask the right people usually what's going on. They'll ask like, a white bystander, they'll ask, an elderly Black woman who really just wanted to go get some milk from the grocery store. They never ask the people who are they really just don't capture how intense it can be out there. And sometimes it is really intense, and sometimes it's not. It really depends on what time you went to the protest or whether or not you were immersed in the protest, because if you're in the back lines, you didn't see anything. If if you're not up there with the people who are trying to talk to police officers or with the people who are chanting and things of that nature, did you really experience a protest? There was, and chants are so important to keep people engaged in the protest, because that was another problem I had with being out there sometimes when the protests weren't organized, it just felt like we were just standing there. But then I witnessed a really organized protest, and that's something else they're not capturing, where they have people, doing demonstrations. We're not just protesting at this point, we're doing demonstrations. We're trying to promote advocacy and diplomacy and all these things into this. We have people who are Muslim, we have people who are Christians holding hands, we have people who are atheists, we have people who are, Nation of Islam, people who are Black Hebrew Israelites, people who are Baptists, they're all holding hands. In other places where gangs are prominent, you have Bloods and Crips and MS-13 uniting for the sake of the cause. And the news is not showing that. They're not showing how this is impacting the people who this is hitting too close to home now. They're not showing the people who have been who have been out there. They're not showing any side. They're just showing I wouldn't say it's neutral. They're showing a very watered down version of what's actually going out there. And the violence that they do show, it's rare almost. And when we talk about the violence and the rioting, what they fail to show is that half the people doing that are white, if not most of the people out there causing a ruckus. They're white, and a lot of them are out there because they're anarchists. They don't really necessarily, the movement of Blackness doesn't really bother. That's not what their primary focus is. They're out there to incite chaos. I didn't know what Antifa was until I was out there. I had never heard of it, and maybe that's because I'm out of the loop. I'm not paying attention.
What's that?
Antifa, I'm so glad you asked what that is, because I asked the same question about a week ago. Antifa essentially is this group of people who formed on the dark web. From my understanding, they formed on the dark web, and they're similar to the Anonymous group, but the difference between Anonymous and Antifa is mostly white, and they're white people, and some might say that they're anti-white, but they're really just, a lot of them are anti-capitalist, police, anti-military, whatever you want to call this regime, because it's not really democracy anymore at this point. Some people can interpret.
When was it really democracy? But
yeah, but some people will interpret Antifa as a band of white teenagers and adults just being anarchists, and some people might say that they're allies. It really just depends on your interpretation. I haven't had really any personal run-ins with any of them, and then it's not something that you really would say out loud. Oh, I'm Antifa, because it's now been declared as a terrorist group. So it's not something.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. But they call everything a terrorist group that doesn't align with what the government wants us to do. You have to remember the Black Panther Party was considered a terrorist group, a terrorist organization. So, but I don't know too much about Antifa to vouch for them or to dismiss them. But a majority of those white people, maybe our allies, might potentially be Antifa. I'm not too sure, but it's definitely something that you hear people talking about when you're out there. But I've definitely seen.
It sounds like when the Black Panther Party was prominent, shout out to Huey P. Newton and A-Trap Brown, when they were prominent, you had the White Panthers. You know what I'm saying? Now that's like a joke to a lot of people, but that's like a real thing. The White Panthers were anti-capitalist. They were quote unquote pro-Black, and the White Panthers literally were a group of white people who were as down of allies as John Brown was back in the 1800s. So yeah, that's what it kind of reminds me of. I didn't mean to cut you off though. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I ramble. I don't even remember what I was talking about. But
well, I can ask you the next question if you would like.
Yes, that's fine.